Okay, despite being referred to as a white man's illness, the WHO in 2017 ranked Nigeria as the nation with the highest number of depression in Africa by Guardian Life. Why does society still sweep it under the rug? My question is real as fuck.
Very simple. We don't understand.
I feel like it's a stigma because in Nigeria we are so quick to stigmatize people.
We're always going to see Jesus.
Yeah, because if you say you're depressed, something on your mind.
Exactly. The fact that it is mental, it's a mental condition. Once they hear mental in Nigeria is with madness and everything. So once you hear that, exactly. So once you hear that someone is depressed, you would rather just lock the person away and call your pastor to come and pray for the person as opposed to actually seeking medical.
Even the person that is depressed, they rather lock themselves away. They don't want to deal with it, but
and then they do 70 days fasting and prayer.
But you know what? I think it's less about sweeping it under the rug and more about ignorance.
Yeah.
Because we really don't know.
It's not about sweeping it under the rug.
It's about it because we really don't know that depression truly is a mental disorder and it can be caused by various things.
What is actually depression? I mean, I have to define what it is.
What depression is?
A major depressive disorder is for you to say someone has it, it has to have 5 or more of the symptoms. One has to be like a low mood, persistently low mood, and then 2 you have to have lack of interest in activities, especially the ones that used to be like regulation before. So when you start, so think about the low mood, persistent low mood, think about anhedonia. Anhedonia is loss of interest in activities, and then you have hyperinsomnia, someone who is sleeping so much. You have insomnia as well, like you have hyperinsomnia, insomnia. You have weight loss or weight gain. And by weight loss, you should have lost like 5% of your body weight. Do you understand? Like 5%, like within a month. Either you lose it or then you gain it. And then you have persistent feeling of guilt, like you just feel guilty. It's like, it's like worthless, feelings of worthlessness. And then the second one too, motivation or agitation, which means low energy levels, like you're just tired, you feel pissed, and then people around you say, oh, you know, it's just, you feel it, and then, but most times you really observe that people around you, and then you now have the suicidal ideation, basically. And these symptoms have to be present for 2 weeks, do you understand? For 2 weeks to get, and then it should not be caused, do you understand, by like, you know, like drugs. Do you get like, this has person taking drugs before? Do you understand what I mean?
And I'm sorry to interrupt. So you're saying the depression we're talking about is specifically depression and shouldn't be like a person has schizophrenia or any of those things.
No,
then it's not depression alone on its own.
Now it's like, when you say this is a major depressive disorder, do you understand? Like so, this is depression.
And you're saying it shouldn't be triggered by.
I'm not saying you should not be triggered. No. That's
not before you diagnose it.
Before you make a diagnosis that this is a major depression. Because yes, when you have this, I'm like depression itself, you know, people may not be depressed, do you understand? So that's why you have so many false positives. Depression is actually an illness on its own by its time. And then when you are grieving, bereavement, it's a problem as well on its own. Do you understand? But most of the time we just put it up together, sad, depressed, and then you know everything. So what I'm just trying to do is just clarify and say, okay, fine, this is depression, this is a major depressive disorder. So that people who experience depression without going through any of those risk factors, like nothing actually bad happened in their life. Nothing
just
they have no joy. Do you understand? So do you get what I mean?
Okay, so that's when you say an actual illness.
Yes, it is. It's like a condition.
Okay.
You understand what I mean?
So there are a lot of other, risk factors for depression that are external. So, I mean, a lot of people speak about family pressures. When women at the age of getting married, definitely there's a lot of pressure around marriage from friends and family. After school, people, if you don't have a job, financial. And what I'm seeing as well a lot with men is like financially, when they can't financially support their family, and there's an overwhelm that comes in, and there's sometimes depression and suicidal thinking as well that comes in. And we don't even pay attention to things like the environment, like living in, smog, just being surrounded around dirt.
In traffic.
And that was what I was going to touch on. Traffic is, for me, we talk about things like road rage. You just kind of snap. I mean, obviously our parents do the best they can to protect us, right? But protecting people is actually a big cause for the problems that we see ahead, because we haven't dealt with it before. So when it now comes, it doesn't come like in a small way. It comes and goes like that, because all the little times when you could have learned the lessons, you will protect it.
Yeah, because I feel like you said, because of family, like you're not even in a space where you can talk about stuff. Because I think that when you think about the things that are around depression, I feel like some of those things, some of them, you can actually, if you talk to somebody about it,
100%.
like for example, like the mood, if you had people to talk about it, you could be in a better mood, you know. Because I feel like, you know, when you mention all those things, you think about it that over time you can like defeat some of these things slowly and gradually. But oftentimes everybody is kind of like in their own space trying to deal with it by themselves, and oftentimes you never really get there.
Yeah.
I like what you said. I like what you said about family. Because like for me, I'm an only child. Well, I'm the only child that I know of. So like it's a bit. My take was a bit different. I had like my parents, you know, but I didn't have siblings. You didn't have, you know, it's a bit different.
I'm even single mom, so just me and her, and like, so you know, I can't talk to her.
So you know, so you don't have that. There's a bridge that. So eventually, a bit later, I started encountering like different issues that a lot of people dealt with a bit earlier. So for them, it was like it's trivial, but for me, it was a big deal because I didn't know how to handle it.
I can understand what you're talking about, family, because I grew up in a family. My parents are really strict and almost expressing yourself, because like mostly Nigerian parents, you can't really express yourself. Nigerian parents. My parents are really strict, and I was diagnosed with chronic depression like a few years ago, because I had to literally deal with everything. I couldn't express, and I'm not the kind of person to express. If you don't ask, I'm not going to tell. So I would literally carry the weight of the world on my shoulder, and I'll be in. So my parents looked at me, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine. I want to talk to you, but I can't." So I had that. So that everything you just described, I felt the insomnia, the insomnia itself. Feeling of worthlessness. I had suicidal thoughts. I used to cut myself. So there was a lot I was going through, and nobody knew about it. And it took me a while. I had to like fight myself back, because I had to start reading books. I don't want to live. So I had to get books, listen to obviously sermons, gospel, music. So it kind of things I think helped myself out of depression. So it's key to knowing people around you, because something like that, we had a discussion before. Knowing people around you, sometimes we are all responsible for our own environment. We are so self-absorbed that we don't take time to look at other people. We think people are strong, but we're really not that strong. Like, oh, you're a strong person now, because they might be suffering and dying in silence, and you don't know that. So family is key, because if your family, parents out there, siblings, if you do not create an environment where people can actually express themselves without judgment and without feeling, okay, I'm going to feel guilty.
To buttress some points from what she said, I want to go on counter depression now, which I don't know if you were at the audition when we talked about it before, some people were here when I said I did not really believe in depression. Saying depression rather. I know it's real. I'm not ignorant of fact, but then I would say, according to me, everything that she probably had listed, which is obviously true, I would say at a point in my life I went through that, but I was not depressed. I didn't hit that depression. Why? Because I felt that this shit is getting real. I wasn't sleeping. I was sleeping too much. I cannot even say I'm planning with, because here I see me. Then, at a point in time, I just knew that the shit is getting real. So I have to actually get myself up, because at a point in time, I had shit happened to me my final year, and it was crazy, because I don't even want to go into details, but it was crazy. So I probably had like serious extras, if not plus or something, and then family issues actually, because at a point in time, when some people always say your parents are strict, I'll always say one thing: talk, communicate. Your parents, at a point in time when you grow older, when you get older, they will not beat you. They won't even push you out of the house.
I mean, but
so
before they'll beat you.
I know, I understand.
They'll beat you first.
I mean, I get it. You come from a family where you could easily snap out. Right now, you can talk to your parents about whatever you're going through. If you have a foundation where there wasn't that room where you could express, you will grow up having that wall.
I had a friend whose mom used to tell her she was
my parents
ugly.
still find it hard. Like, I don't express. Like, you don't talk.
Many people.
You don't express. You don't talk, because I got so used to dealing with things by myself. So if anything happens to me, I keep it in and I deal with it. And It might be detrimental to my mind, and I don't know it because I'm not voicing, because I'm so used to not having an environment where I could voice it. So it's not
Can I just
for everybody.
I
have to be very comfortable with you enough to actually express how I truly feel. But
and then to add to everything is because you realize that people are wired differently. Some people can handle shit on their own, and I think that's you. I think that's to a certain extent, most of us try to handle shit on our own. But I figured that sometimes, you know how they say a problem shared is a problem half solved and stuff like that. I feel like to a certain extent, when you share stuff about what you're going through, you have this even if it's for a short period, there's this sort of relief.
But
we have to be careful.
Exactly. So I know people who have shared and it backfired. And you know that on its own will just take you even deeper into it. So I know somebody who used to be like a junkie almost, and nobody knew. And then she opened up to her mother. I was telling her mom, okay, this is what I'm going through and everything, blah, 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 blah. And her mom, of course, being a mom, don't worry, you come out of it and let's pray and blah, 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 blah. And the next time they fought, her mom was telling her, you're like all those Ikeja boys. You're like all those, do you understand? So the way, and that's why I said I have a problem with your train of thought, because I have seen people, Nigerian parents can be really gangster. Like, they can break you down. So I feel like, although what you went through, I'm not trying to downplay what you went through, but I feel like what you went through, you probably came from a family where you could interpret their actions and you could tell that their intentions were good. If you have a parent that tells you your mates are doing this, why can't you be like them? This is why you can't talk to your friends, because you know they are not on your level anymore. Where is the good in that?
So the mindset of somebody who is suffering from depression is usually very volatile. And you need to understand that when your mindset is volatile, it's very easy to either shift from good to bad or from bad to good. So when we talk about opening up, a problem shared is half solved, but then sometimes you share your problems and then people say stuff and they just take you like 10 steps back. It's like going like 1 step forward and like 10 steps back, and it doesn't make any sense. So like in a typical African family, when they want to chastise you or rebuke you for something you've done wrong, they will bring up things you've done in the past. So I'm depressed. As a result, I have become a sex addict, and I tell you I'm a sex addict because I am depressed. And then the next time you see me going and you're like, you're going to go and look for man again, you better control your, like, what is that? What is that? And like, that is like, it's normal. And they think that, people always think that, okay, I'm just being like, I'm cracking a joke, I don't mean it in a bad way, but my mindset is really fragile at that point in time. Why would you make jokes? And that's like even the least of it. Sometimes you have people who are like downright reproachful and downright like they're trying to like castigate you, and they're bringing up stuff you told them in fucking confidence. Like, how twisted are we? Like, but here's the thing, that's reality. So really, why should you open up to everybody?
So guys, what's your take on technology and depression? So you know, like how in general in Nigeria, because this is our own jurisdiction, I say that because I'm a lawyer. Let's check that.
Okay, lawyer.
Because it's our jurisdiction and blah blah blah. Guys here are stunting on in fact, guys or babes or everybody is trying to stunt on each other. The world in general is very competitive now. So
I know, right?
it leads people to depression. Guys wake up in the morning and you see your mates, you guys are the same age, finish school the same time, and
probably
he's probably studied the same thing, and for babes he probably banged the same
lecturer. And you know
lecturer.
you're probably smarter than this person.
Shut up, I know.
Be better than yours.
Well, exactly. You know, so like how does that affect people? How does that like cause people to go into depression?
For one, technology itself has expanded the amount of information that you take in. And for example, now when you think about things like Twitter, every second someone's clicking send. Every goddamn second someone's clicking send. So there's so many things to see. There's so many things to read. And sometimes it might not even be someone stunting. It might just be someone talking about their own situation, and then you relate to it so much, and then you just kind of like, maybe you have been dealing with your stuff and by yourself. You know how most of the time we're trying to do stuff, and then you read someone's story that's so similar to yours, and then suddenly you're just sad again, and then you're back where you're starting from. You know, sometimes I feel like it's an information overload, and you try to kind of like take yourself away from it sometimes, but then sometimes I even realize that one way or the other, our lives kind of revolve slightly around these things, because You're on Instagram today, you're on Snapchat tomorrow, there's Twitter, there's Facebook, there's the educative ones, there's Quora, there's Pinterest, there's Pinterest, there's LinkedIn, there's everything. So because you can be in your house jobless, and then suddenly you open LinkedIn and then you see your guy that was your sis partner,
and then you see his citation.
Suddenly
you see
that citation is like,
oh man, heaviness in your chest. I mean, for one, I like that we actually kind of like broke it down to the fact that there's mild depression, there's moderate depression, there's severe depression, and maybe to a certain extent, more people than we even know go through mild depression. So, and I think it's all these little things that affect it, because you just go around your day trying to just enjoy your life, and then you just see Tunde from 2008 holding champagne in Santorini, playing ball and stuff.
But Tunde is also just trying to enjoy his life.
Do you know, with this whole social media thing and us comparing ourselves, I think it's so underplayed because we don't know how much it actually does affect us watching people's lives and stuff. Like me, for example, I know that thing really does affect me, because I'm not saying I'm a failure now, but there are many people who are younger than me. I grew up together and they're like light years ahead. When I go on Instagram or whatever, every day you show my age. So when I see that thing, I'm not saying it makes me gel. Okay, there's a slight gel. Yeah, it's like gel, but it's not coming from a bad place. But it kind of makes me feel like shit about myself.
What have I been
doing?
Yeah. So I think instead of us, easier said than done. I think instead of us like beat ourselves up about everything, it's like I try to get inspired by these people. You know, like I have.
I used to feel that way, where you see your friends and your peers are making it. I said, "Oh, my life is social and suffering depressed." But I came to realize that, man, all that glitters is not.
That is true.
For example, everyone has done it. If you take pictures, you take like 100 pictures, but you only pick the best.
You put your best on social media.
Every other thing happens to you, like nobody knows about it. So you only want to put your best out there, even if that best is not your best. That might not be your car. That might be your homeboy's car. That might not be your trip.
Listen, all that glitters is not gold. There is nothing wrong with living your life and having your best life. Not everyone on Instagram is showing the worst parts of their lives. Everyone wants to show their best. So you getting depressed over someone's nicely crafted social media page does not mean anything. So the popular guys that you're probably looking at and having a frenzy about how good their lives is are probably most often than not depressed and suffering from depression. I mean, look at all this, the rich and the famous that you see committing suicide every other day. They have all the wealth that you're looking for, but they're sad. So, and look, it's just a vicious circle. You're out, you want in, you're in, you want out. But what I would say is just be content with what you have and who you are.
For all of this feeling, how I got over it, or the way my own formula was that, like, first of all, the game is the game. Nobody's gonna. There's no sympathy in this life. And at the end of the day, every agbalagba has an agbalagbi. You understand? No matter what you're doing, you just have to play the game as you know it, and just hope for the best. But if you are trying to give an example,
but why are you in control?
Exactly, and that is not how it is.
You're not Dr. Phil. You're
not exactly.
Even Dr. Phil. Okay, so one of the top reactions I see with depression or mental disorders or whatever in Nigeria is one phrase: "Get over it." And that really, really, really stresses me. I was like a few months ago, I was like with a group of friends, and one of my friends' friend was talking about how for the past 2-3 years he's been on drugs and whatever, and now that he's past the drugs, like he doesn't have a job, he doesn't have money, his siblings, parents, everyone looks like him somehow, so he's genuinely depressed and he has good reason to. I told him, fool, at the point I was just like, get over it. Like, I was stunned. I was like, this boy has poured out his life. He has told you why he's depressed. I am telling him to get over it. And this is why there are many mad people on the road in Nigeria, because a lot of these people, they'll be saying, oh, they smoke Igbo, oh, they are fighting him from his village. I don't know what. Those people might have had different things, depression, schizophrenia, whatever. And mental illness is actually illness. You have to treat it like you're treating malaria, as far as I know. So when you don't treat it, it can go haywire, and that's why they end up on the street. So it's not always about say smoking, drugs, or like it's so stressful. Like to like get over it, it just really.
It depends on how it's being said. That get over it is horrible, yes. But like I said, that person is a good friend. Because when you pour out, I believe in talking to someone. I believe in having a proper sit down to talk to the person. You're arriving to you can get over it, but not just plain like get over it. You can talk to them.
Obviously, so that is part of like the solution. It's like
and that's what I'm going to
say. That's what I'm saying. So you can tear the end result of the talk can be get over it, but the way it's
with a lot of effort and whatever. The person probably doesn't even know that he's hurting someone by saying get over it.
No, so here's the thing. Can you really help the fact that somebody does not know? You are my friend. I don't know much about what depression is. I don't know much about the fact that your mental state could actually be like something that is medically can be diagnosed and it can be treated and all that. If you tell me this is what I'm going to do, for someone who is not enlightened, the person can just be like, okay, life is being life. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my god, I feel like my life is like, fam, this is life. Like, it doesn't get any better. You need to get over it. Yeah. So what the person did is not right. That doesn't mean that their intentions
the intentions are not bad. When it comes to mental health, really, I don't like it when people say get over it. Do you understand? Because most of the time, mental illness actually doesn't go away. You know,
doesn't what?
Go away. Do you understand? It's not something that just goes. Do you understand? No, let me explain how this works. So when people say get over it, it's just like now. Come and tell you, oh, I have a fracture, I broke my leg, and like just shake it off, and you see my leg is broken and it's twisted. You don't tell me that. Do you understand? So we're trying to normalize mental health conditions. Basically, it's not like malaria that okay, fine, you take Coartem or you take a Tesonate and then I'm back. Oh yes, I'm all right. That's not what mental illness is. Coming to Nigeria, basically, I think the one is ignorance because the knowledge of mental illness in Nigeria is either overtly false or even insufficient. What people know is wrong, and then it's not even there, and then. Thanks to Nollywood, when someone actually comes with a mental health condition, this is how it usually starts. It's usually sudden. You know how a woman is just sitting there, and just starting like this, and somebody sent it to her probably.
If we're relying on Nollywood and Hollywood to teach us about mental health, then of course it's going to be skewed because then we're not seeing real stories, especially with black faces. We're seeing stories with white faces already. So, and then the stories we see with black faces, every time they fall sick, they end up underneath the bridge, they end up homeless. It's the stories that they're telling are wrong. So now we need to speak to, there needs to be a dialogue definitely with like these people who are sharing these messages like Nollywood or whatever directors that, look, it's time to tell real stories. We understand that drama sells, but now this is like a life or death situation. We live in a society that is a spiritual society. We spiritualize everything. So we cannot leave faith-based leaders out of the story. What we need to do is educate them, because at the end of the day, these leaders are like us. So if we're saying the average person doesn't know about mental health, neither do the leaders. So what now needs to happen is for faith-based leaders to actually get that education. I remember my church in the UK, you can't be in the counseling department unless you have a counseling diploma, because you're dealing with mental health. You can provide the spiritual element in association with the knowledge. So that's what I think now is the issue. Look, spiritual people gain a lot from churches and from mosques. There's a lot of hope that people can hold on to, and hope is great in terms of healing, but there's also the knowledge element. So if we now start bringing the knowledge element into the churches and the religious buildings, I feel like that's actually going to help, especially because people trust their faith leaders. But at the end of the day, in hospitals, I don't know if they do it in Nigeria, but they have chaplaincy, they have a chaplain. So, I mean, if people believe that there should be a faith leader in a hospital, why can they not believe in having, using medical care and still in church?
So now my question is this. How do you convince your pastor?
Yeah, we want to educate people. We want to educate.
I think that, look, then that just shows a flaw in the person. That's a personal flaw in the person. And I think that we need to stop putting power into people. Like, if you have a faith, then your faith is not meant to be your faith in the pastor. Your pastors are flawed. And you know, you said something earlier, I think about Dr. Phil probably has a... Yes, even psychiatrists have psychiatrists. You know, even pastors have flaws. Like, oh my gosh, like, you know, at the end of the day, like, you need to start, if what somebody is doing is not healthy for you, it's not healthy for you.